right, everyone, welcome back into H2H, week number 4 in the NFL. Tasos, myself, battling out like we do every single week. Tasos, wasn't much of a battle last week. This is not exactly your best start to the head-to-head season, is it?
No, it's been a bit of a rough start. 0-4 last week. I think I made fun of you last week or 2 weeks ago.
You did. I think I think you jinxed yourself.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, pretty rough week last week. I was just talking about it to you before we started recording. But in hindsight, hindsight's always 20/20. But we had some interesting decisions last week that backfired. So first time ever the total tease has ever lost. 8-1 now lifetime. It was 8-0.
Was it 8-0?
It was 8-0 lifetime going into last week, and now
you're getting choked up about the loss now.
I literally am. I'm sad about the total tease, but it's all right. You know what? There's still a long season left to go. Plenty of time. I think this week we turn things around.
You did tell me. You said I'm still feeling confident. I'm sitting there being like, confident after a week like that. I don't know. I mean, the Texans did us both 30 because I took them as one of my own plays for my Sunday video, and we don't have to spend too much time on it, but I don't know what's going on with that team. They literally can't do anything.
It's so funny, too, because if you watch the video back, we were both like, oh, my God.
I know. They got us both. But, guys, if you don't know how this show works, it is a little bit different than the normal videos you're watching. Me and Tasos compete each and every week. Whoever comes out on top gets a win for that week. I'm now 2-1 in the 2025 season. Tasos is 1-2. We spin a wheel that dictates what categories we bet into and have to make selections from. So yeah, we don't just get to pick anything, under the sun. We actually have to allow the wheel gods to either bless us or hurt us. But Tasos, ready to jump into it?
I'm ready. I'm pumped about this week. I did a lot of research on the board, more than usual, and I usually am a research guy. I did my homework this week. There's some plays that I'm very confident about, so I'm hoping for a big bounce back this week.
Some might say you're kind of reeling after an 0-4 day, and maybe you're overthinking now, though.
No. There's no such thing as overthinking.
Some might think there definitely is such thing as overthinking.
It's more like my eyes have been opened a little wider now. It's like, all right, it's time to man up. It's time to roll up the sleeves and really get to work here because we were playing a little too loosey goosey the first couple of weeks. Now it's time to lock in.
All right, so you'll see a wheel on your screen, guys. It has 2 Ev slices, 2 Tasos slices. This is simply to determine our draft order. Then it's a snake draft from that. But let's go ahead and spin it.
I want this. I want it bad. I got to start off, and I'm going to get what I want.
Are you?
Keep going.
Oh, not a good start for you. He called it, and he was wrong.
Not a good start.
All right, that was very close. If I were to give you anything there, I kind of thought that would have moved. But those were big slices. All right, let's get into, I guess we could say, the more important wheel here. This is going to be our category wheel. We have a bunch of things on here, including anytime touchdown, total, spread, Thursday night football play, player prop. We have a new ad, underdog money line play, so a plus money line play. Shout out to Ariel commenting that last week. Guys, if you have any wheel ideas or wheel ads, make sure to comment down below. We also have plus money play, another money line spot, player prop, and spread. Tasos, you said you did research. Is there anything that you like more than, I guess, anything else this week?
Ev, the world's my oyster. And
he's back, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm ready. I have multiple, and this is where it could be scary for you. I have multiple options to deploy for each category, so I'm ready for whatever you got.
Okay, let's go ahead and spin it. I'm starting us off. Let's see what we got.
Is there anything you prefer more? I mean, we're gonna get a spread pick. It looks like.
Oh, Tasos, your eye for the wheel is usually very good. I'll give you those flowers. I don't know what you're seeing today.
0 for 2 right now.
Yeah, 0 for 2. Seriously. All right, Thursday night football. You said, what do I like? I'm liking the idea of a couple money lines this week. But Thursday night football, I feel like I have a decent grasp on. By the way, guys, that one now is removed from the wheel, so we won't have it again. In terms of where I'm going Thursday night football, we do have the Cardinals and Seahawks taking place. I talked about this a little bit in my video, in terms of my actual Thursday night football video for the channel, but it's not actually something that I spent too much time talking about, so I'm happy to do so here. I like Marvin Harrison Jr. over 46.5 receiving yards. It's minus 114 right now. All right, guys, hate to break up the action for 1 second, but I did want to talk to you about Outlier. You've heard us talk about Outlier plenty on this channel over the years. That's because it remains our favorite player prop research tool. Check out the link down in the description as well as the pinned comment, or scan the QR code on your screen right now. You'll get a 7-day free trial. 7 days free for you to make the decision whether or not you like Outlier or not. I know the answer is going to be yes, but hey, go do it yourself, right? Even after that trial's over, they don't have this big gotcha moment. No, it's just $19.99 per month after that. You hit some plays with Outlier, it's going to pay for itself. Go ahead and check it out, guys. They are constantly building and making this tool even better. Outlier, go check it out. Link down in the description as well as the pinned comment, or scan that QR code right here. Now let's get you back to H2H. I'm not going to spoil my entire Thursday Night Football video, but I do like, I do think that the Cardinals will have to pass the ball, and they're probably not going to be able to run on this Seattle defense. Obviously, James Conner's out of this game too. At some point, you have to realize that Marvin Harrison Jr. is simply the most talented guy on their offense, and they will force feed him. Now, this season, he has one decent game, right? Week number 1, 71 receiving yards. Then he has 27 and 41. Not all that great. He was targeted 6 times last week. He only caught the ball 3 times. One more catch and he's over this line, and I expect them to either one of two things, be playing from behind here, or to be competitive in this game, they're going to have to throw the ball against Seattle. So, yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., go get 47 yards. And again, biggest point here would be that he is, like, at what point are you going to start force feeding a number 4 pick? Like, you need to do that at some point to make it worth it.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off for him. Betting on Mitsubishi Marv is it's an interesting. I have a rule in this household, and that rule is we don't bet on Marvin Harrison Jr. because it's for a guy who coming into the draft with such this big time prospect. Everyone's like, gonna be the next Randy Moss or even the next Marvin Harrison taking over after his dad. Like, there's a lot of expectations, and I don't know. It's a little bit of both. I think some of it has to do with Kyler and the offense. Some of it has to do with him himself. He just has not panned out to be that superstar wide receiver that everybody thought. He's had, like you said, he had one really decent game, and the rest of it has kind of been what his whole career up to this point has been, which is just mediocre performances. This is an interesting spot just because of the matchup. I mean, Seattle defensively, they're pretty solid. I mean, this is a pretty good defense. And so you taking an over and receiving yards in this spot is interesting, to say the least. I'm pulling up some numbers right now from Outlier real quick. The passing defense numbers for Seattle are pretty solid. So if we look at Seattle's defense so far this year, they are giving up 221.7 passing yards per game, which actually is not as good as I thought it was going to be. So maybe I'm wrong here. 20th in passing yards allowed, which, like I said, it's not a bad matchup spot, honestly.
Yep.
Maybe I'm missing something here. I just think Seattle, the thing with them is they're going to be able to put a good amount of pressure on Kyler in this spot.
Yep.
They're going to be able to get to him a little bit, and that's where I would be worried about him in this spot. I do like, spoiler, I like Seattle here. So, I mean, if they are trailing, I think that only kind of helps your case in terms of throwing the football trailing from behind. I think my biggest thing is just I have a lot of hesitation with Marvin Harrison Jr. He's a guy who, like I said, has consistently kind of come up short. One last thing I wanted to look at before I throw it back to you, and it's the matchup here. So receiving yards allowed, like I said, they're 20th versus wide receivers. That's the one I looked at earlier when I saw this. The Seattle Seahawks, their defense right now, top 4 in the NFL in terms of receiving yards allowed per game to the wide receiver position. Okay, so 98.7 yards per game to wide receivers. I saw that mark earlier. That's the mark I was kind of in my head thinking of. And if we look down below here to some of the receivers, their matchups against Seattle. Now, Brandon Cooks cashed his line. Granted, that line was 15.5 receiving yards, so didn't need much. But like Chris Olave, he missed it by a yard, but Olave didn't cash his over. DK Metcalf fell well short of that over. Juwan Jennings fell well short. The only receiver so far that's had like a great game against the Seahawks defense is Ricky Pearsall in week 1. We had 108 yards receiving. Besides that, the only other receiver that has had like a halfway decent game is Olave, and he only had 57 yards. And I think Olave at this point is a better receiver than Marvin Harrison Jr. So that's, I guess, would be the one area where I'd be a little concerned there if I was you, is that Seattle, their defense, although they do give up some passing yards per game, if we narrow it down to just the wide receiver position, it's not as good. It's a little weaker. So that's the one area for you I'd be a little concerned.
Yeah, it's fair enough. I do think that even regardless of matchup, it kind of comes down to like what I said, that this could very well be a force feeding type of situation. And realistically, everything you said, I would say is 100% true if we're looking at a guy to go out there and catch 65 yards through the air and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Realistically, 47 yards for your wide receiver one. I know people, Trey McBride's probably their receiver one, but for your wide receiver one, bar none, 47 yards in a game in which we both already said they'll probably be throwing from behind, I definitely don't mind it. But what are you looking at in Thursday Night Football? You already kind of leaked that you liked the Seahawks. Is that where you're going?
No, no, no. I'm actually kind of following you here. You're going with a Cardinals player prop, although I'm going in a little bit of an opposite direction.
Okay.
I am going with Kyler Murray over half an interception, which is minus 110 on BetMGM is what I'm seeing it for here. I think the big thing here is this Seahawks defense is for real. I've been talking about it on my videos. I've talked about it as much as I possibly can here on the channel. I think the Seahawks defense is top 10, maybe even top 5 best defense in the National Football League right now. I think that's a massive disadvantage for a Cardinals team that, if we're being honest, haven't been that great offensively. Their best game so far of the year, they scored 27 points against the Panthers, which, granted, that's pretty good, right? That's not bad, but that is Carolina,
Panthers.
and it's a pretty bad defense, right? You look at some of the other performances, and again, to compare with Seattle, the Cardinals in Week 1 scored 20 points versus the Saints. The Seahawks last week scored 44. So that kind of tells you, and I don't think the Seahawks offense is that great to begin with. So that tells you there's some issues here with this Cardinals offense. They only scored 15 points last week versus the 49ers. But there's one stat, and I'm using the dashboard over on Guy Boston Sports, which if you guys don't use that, go ahead and check that out. It's a great tool that shout out to Ev. We may go head-to-head here, but the one thing, he's been killing it with the dashboard, which, by the way, is now updated. All the 2025 numbers are accurate and updated in the system. We have Kyler Murray. So looking at Seattle's defense, all right, their frequency. First and foremost, they have a lot of pressure. Okay, 6th in the NFL in terms of pressure frequency rank. Okay, that's pretty good. Kyler Murray this year versus pressure, you can see his numbers clearly drop. So overall, 67.4% completion percentage. That drops to 53.8% versus pressure. Okay, but the key number here, he has a 1.1% interception percentage. Versus pressure, that jumped up to 7.7. Okay, a massive increase in interception percentage. So just from a mathematical perspective, it makes sense that he would throw an interception in this spot. Now, from a numbers perspective, in so far this year, 3 games played, he's thrown 1 pick. But if you look at the head-to-head category, these teams obviously being division rivals, each of the last 2 times he's played Seattle, he's thrown an interception. The last time they played on December 8th of last year, when this Seahawks defense really got going, 2 interceptions in that game. If you guys still don't follow me here, there's also the insights provided by Outlier. Kyler Murray has exceeded half an interception in 4 of his last 5 games versus top 10 defenses for interceptions forced. Right now, look at Seattle. They are forcing a healthy amount of interceptions. Kyler is averaging an interception per game in these type of matchups. Seattle right now, number 2 in the NFL in terms of interceptions forced per game, averaging 1.7. Granted, we're only 3 games into the season, but all of these numbers point to, for me, and again, we just talked about it, I think this is a game where Seattle's the better team. I think Seattle's going to have the lead. They're going to be playing from behind. Kyler might force some mistakes here. So I think him over half an interception is a pretty good player prop.
Yeah, I don't hate it. I mean, it didn't really come across my board researching, but your case is pretty sound. You look at the quarterbacks they faced this year: Brock Purdy, Aaron Rodgers, Rattler. Brock Purdy threw for 2, Rodgers threw for 2, Rattler threw for 1. So they're pretty much making it like a living hell for any of their quarterbacks. I definitely don't mind this. And if my memory serves me correct, you hit one of these, I think, in Week 1. Geno Smith, did you have that?
I had Geno Smith over half an interception.
All right,
Yep,
so maybe this is your little interception whisperer here, because I really don't mind it. I feel like some of that analysis is pretty damn sound. So yeah, I'm kind of in on that, Tasos, and I like the look. I do think Murray's going to be kind of throwing it a lot more in terms of quantity. So especially if they're playing from behind and with the pressure, and especially he's going to be throwing it more, I would think, because of the run game. They already had a lack thereof of run game. Now James Conner's out. They have Trey Benson as their running back. He's kind of like a pass catcher. So to me, you're just going to have more volume of Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray with more volume. Yeah, he runs around like a Madden character sometimes, but with more volume comes more responsibility. And he, with more responsibility, will kind of be a little careless with the ball. He'll sling it sometimes. So don't mind this spot. A good defense, a quarterback that does make some what decisions. So yeah, don't mind it there. You kind of got me on board with that one.
Listen, like I said, did my research, did my homework. There's the thing with Kyler Murray too, where this is a guy who like sometimes you watch like his games back and some of the interceptions he does throw. Talking more about obviously last year, this is a guy who throws like some crazy. Where it's like, what are you doing, Kyler? Kind of interceptions.
Yeah, he'll throw the across the field, like across his body stuff. He does that because he'll do the run around, and which is unreal to watch, right? Like that's what I mean with like the Madden character. But at some point, he probably feels the pressure of, and no pun intended, feels the pressure of needing to make something happen in that play because you don't want to run around for 10 seconds and throw it out of bounds. So in his brain, he's like, all right, we got to try and do something. And then it ends up being like, why'd you throw it there?
Kyler Murray is like the modern, like, I guess modern is a weird way to say it, but like the 2019 Carson Wentz. If you remember when he kind of came back, not the first year after the Eagles went to the Super Bowl, the following year where he was kind of healthy in 2019, where it's like that offensive line was not good. The offense for the Eagles wasn't good. And he was just kind of, I call it playing Superman, where it's like he felt like he had to put the whole team on his back. And so when a play was dead, he would still try to extend it and he would be falling on the ground and throwing it from the ground and throwing it in weird positions. And sometimes it did work, but more often than not, it was either a really bad incompletion or a horrible interception. Kyler Murray has a little bit of that going on.
All right. Kind of like it. All right, let's jump into round number 2. You're going to be starting us off here.
Yep.
So Thursday Night Football is now off the board. We still have everything else that I mentioned prior to. You said the world's your oyster. You got Thursday Night Football out of the way. You want to call your shot here, or you just want to let it come to you?
No. Considering that I'm 0-2 on calling my shot, I'm going to go ahead and maybe go and let the wheel gods decide.
That's very fair. Let's spin it.
What about you? I asked you, but I didn't get a chance. Is there anything that you're really looking for?
I'd say player props or money line or spread. And it looks like, is this going to sit? Yeah.
You're going to get a spread pick.
All right. Let's see where you go first. So spread is round number 2 here. You're starting it off, then me.
All right, this is one I think is a pretty relevant one considering some news that dropped today. It's a little scary, I'm going to be honest, just because of some unknowns in this game. I'm going with the Chargers-Giants 1 p.m. kickoff on Sunday. I'm going Chargers spread, which I am grabbing for. I'm trying to find the best value. I'm going to go -5.5, which I'm getting for -114 on Novig. The Chargers, obviously, they've been very good so far this year. They're 3-0. Overall, they are 3-0 against the spread this year, which obviously is very good. This is a game where I feel like I'm very interested to see how the public betting ends up turning out. Right now, it looks like the Chargers have the majority of public bets. There is a little sharp action on them. There's more money on the Chargers than there are public tickets. So obviously the bigger bettors, the sharp bettors at this time of recording are kind of putting their money on the Chargers here. The big news, right? Jackson Dart obviously starting. Russell Wilson done. They're replacing him, at least for now, putting the rookie Jackson Dart in. Now, this could go one of two ways. The way where it obviously could screw me over, and based on how my season's been going so far, I'm very fearful this could happen, is he's an unknown. You don't have a lot of tape off of him. He comes out here, and he just torches the Chargers. Now, I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. Obviously, that's why I'm taking Chargers spread, but I'm just throwing that out there. This is a risky spot because of the Jackson Dart unknown factor, where like you don't really know what he's going to look like in the NFL. My prediction, though, is this Giants offensive line, not very good. If we go ahead and look at the numbers here, again, looking at Outlier, my screen will load here. There we go. Looking at the numbers for the Giants offense. Okay, offensive line has been a pretty big issue so far this year. Tied for 17th in sacks allowed, tied for 23rd in QB hits allowed, tied for 25th in QB hurries allowed, and tied for 24th in tackles for loss. His offensive line has been a bit of an issue. Russell Wilson is not that good of a quarterback anymore, but to be fair to him, the offensive line wasn't doing him any favors. He was under a lot of pressure in his few starts with the Giants. Putting a rookie quarterback behind there against the Chargers defense that their pass rush isn't otherworldly. It's not like this is one of the best pass rushes in the league, but it's a solid pass rush, and beyond just the defensive line, this is a solid defense from top to bottom, from corners to safeties to linebackers, a defensive lineman. This defense from top to bottom is very, very solid and strong. They have the coaching advantage. They got the better quarterback, obviously, with Herbert. Their offense seems to be humming. They did lose Najee Harris, which is a big loss. I just think in this spot, this is a really, really good football team, a Super Bowl contender even, versus a Giants team that I'm not really sure why they did this now and not next week when you're playing the New Orleans Saints. Feels like a way better spot to put your rookie quarterback in. This feels like a desperation heat from Brian Dable. He feels the heat. The team's 0-3. I need to save my job. It's easier to go to the ownership and say, hey, we lost games because we had a rookie quarterback out there than having Russell Wilson, a Super Bowl champion and veteran out there losing games. I think the Chargers, from an overall standpoint, this is clearly the better team. I think the Jackson Dart element of it is interesting. I just think that this rookie quarterback first start behind a weak offensive line and having Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers, not exactly the start to the career you want. So I know I rented for a while there, but my point being, I like the Chargers a lot in this spot, -5.5.
Yeah, I think that the only thing that like makes me hesitant there is like, why is that line only 5.5? Why is it only around a touchdown? Like, is it? And that was pretty much the line, I would say, even prior to them announcing Dart today, right? So it's like, what's going on there? Is because the Chargers are on the road, they're playing in, it just doesn't make sense to me why this isn't one of those 8.5 point lines or 7.5 right outside of a touchdown. So I'm on board with everything you said. They are by far and away the better team, and somehow, some way, people still are almost like underrating the Chargers. Like, this is a legit football team. Why are they only, why can we get them at 5.5? That's like my weird question. So yeah, I mean, I'm on board, but that almost, if anything smells like a trap or looks like a trap, that's what it is right now, which I'm sure you can understand, because it does kind of seem like you're stealing a way better team, a team that has better wins on the resume already to some degree, and boom, you're getting that number. So yeah, I mean, I'm not against it though. Like, that's the side that I'd be on. That's the side that I'm looking at. And that is one of the spots where I feel like it's like, you don't overthink it. I know we talked about overthinking earlier, but like it's, if you read too much into that, you're going to potentially miss the Chargers at that price. You know what I mean? So yeah, I definitely don't mind it.
And the difference, I think, with last week, like, I think a lot of people are going to point to that Packers-Browns game last week and say, oh, look what can happen. But I think the difference was that there was evidence already that Browns defense was really damn good. It could slow a team like Green Bay down. They did in week 1 versus Cincinnati when they had Joe Burrow at full strength. They slowed that team down completely. The Giants, on the other hand, I mean, I guess you could point to the Cowboys game as like, look what we can do, but like, their defense looked terrible in that game. Their offense was solid, but that's also because the Cowboys. I mean,
yeah, the Bears just scored 31 against the Cowboys, so
exactly.
totally.
And so I just think that sometimes, like you said, I think overthinking it sometimes can lead to you. Like, sometimes you try to outsmart ourselves. Why is it playing the way it is? Why the Giant? Is there something funky going on here? Sometimes it's as simple as the Chargers are the better team, and that's the way it goes. I have one last stat before I give you your chance to go ahead and make a pick here. Chargers are 10-2 against the spread in their last 12 games as a favorite. It's an 83% hit rate against the spread as a favorite. So this has been dominant. The Giants, on the flip side, this is a straight up statistic, but the Giants are 1-13 straight up in their last 14 games as an underdog. So two very different sides of the coin. A team that when they play as a favorite, they typically take care of business, and a team that when they're an underdog, they do what they're expected to do, which is to kind of just lie dead. So,
okay. All right. Yeah, I think I'm on board with that. But like I said, it just seems trappy. I think that, a lot of people would agree with that.
If you don't think I had those thoughts myself, I was like, oh God, like,
I know.
Is Jackson Dart going to go for 250 and 3 touchdowns?
I know. He had a ridiculous preseason, I think. Yeah. So, I mean, all right, I'm going in a different direction here. I'm going Altiev, by the way.
Oh boy.
And I'm alting this thing to make it more difficult on myself, but for plus 140 odds over on ESPN. I think people watching this might hate it. You could definitely hate it. The LA Rams -6.5 against the Colts.
Nope. I like it.
Okay. Indiana Jones. We all know how good he is and everything. Like, I get how good he's been playing. Tasos, it sounds like you're somewhat on my side here. At some point, the wheels would fall off a little bit, right? And I'm not asking for them to like fall off. I think that the Colts have some regression coming. I'm not saying they go from scoring 30 points to 0. But, like, he'll make a mistake. It's still Danny Dingleberry at some point. I get it. Now, that's just part of why I like this. I think this Rams team is obviously very good. Their offense looked really good last week. They should have won that game. That score is not even like, that score does not depict how that game should have ended. And secondarily, like, this Rams defense, now they let up, they let up I forget what it was to the Eagles. It was like 20 or
27.
30.
It was like 20, 33.
30. Yeah,
But
because of that. Yeah,
last
correct.
kick,
Yep.
you know.
Right. So yes, that I get, right. But I think that this Rams defense is legit. Like, this Eagles team is obviously a very good offense. And they did end up coming back and scoring a bunch in the fourth quarter. But, to me, Indiana has scored on Miami. They've scored on Denver. They scored on Tennessee. You'd think Denver and Tennessee are these like good defenses. I'm not going to say that about Miami. This is the best defense that the Colts have seen so far this year. I'm not trying to throw shade at Denver, or because even Tennessee, I feel like, has somewhat of a defense, but maybe they're not as good as we thought. I think this Rams team is better than people think. So yeah, I like the Rams, and they're 3.5 right now. So if anyone's watching this and maybe wants to go in a different direction, I did think about going down to 2.5 to get it there. But I kind of figured that, again, if the Rams win this game, it's because everything that I said happened. Like, there's regression on the Colts side. The Rams bounce back after our heartbreaker. So I figured to go in the direction to be more aggressive for plus 140.
I 100% agree with you. This is a great pick. It's one that I definitely had considered before throwing out the Chargers one. I considered this one for sure. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head to a degree with the talking about the competition. The thing with the Colts is, and I'm not going to sit here and say they're not a good team. They definitely are a good team. I'm not trying to completely discredit them, but let's look at who they played. 0-3 Tennessee Titans, 0-3 Miami Dolphins, and the 1-2 Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver win was impressive, but as we've now seen, the Broncos have struggled. They barely beat Tennessee week 1. They struggle with Tennessee week 1. Then they lose to the Colts in week 2, and they lose to the Chargers in week 3. So this is a Denver team that I think coming into the year, a lot of high expectations, they have kind of come out the gates a little hobbling, right? And then, like I said, Tennessee and Miami are two of the worst teams in the league. We can talk about Tennessee all we want, but the reality is they give it up over 40 points to the Colts. They give up over 30 points to the Rams. The only team that didn't score 30-plus was the Broncos, who, again, have their own issues right now. So I'm not saying the Colts aren't a legit team. I think this is a solid team that's going to hover somewhere around 9 wins by the end of the year. This is by far the toughest team they played. This team is proven. The Rams have beaten the Texans, which I know they're 0-3, so doesn't really say too much. But like you said, they should have won that game versus the Eagles, without a doubt. They had the game-winning field goal right there. It gets blocked. Even if you want to give them the loss, fine. But like 33-26 makes it seem like the Eagles won by a touchdown. A blocked field goal at the end is what added points. Realistically, it was a 1-point game, and then a disaster happens at the end there. They have a very strong defense. Their pass rush is very good. And their offense, as long as Matt Stafford's there, this offense could put up points. This Colts team has not played a team anywhere near. Denver's the only one. And I think right now, if you look at the Rams and the Broncos, the Rams are definitely the better team, a higher caliber team. So I do like the Rams a lot here. Going Alti-Ev, I don't know if I'd go 6.5. I know obviously there's a lot of value there. I'd be a little concerned because I think more so than anything, the Colts defense could slow the Rams down a bit.
Okay.
But honestly, I don't hate the -6.5. I think if you're taking this at -3 or -2.5, it's a lock, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Going the Alti-Ev route, obviously way more risk involved, but that's why you're doing it, is for the increased value. So I really don't hate the spot.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't fault anyone for pivoting to pay a little bit more juice to that 2.5 and 3. But I do think that this. I'm starting to think that this Rams team is severely underrated, and them winning by 7, like, you could look up and see 27-17 or something like that, and it's like, oh, that wouldn't I mean, maybe because but you know what I mean. Like, this could be a game in which even Indianapolis maybe continues to score well, and I'm wrong about the Rams defense, but it could still be a 7-point win, a touchdown win. So yeah, that's where I'm at, and I don't necessarily mind it. So yeah, I think we're both kind of liking the like for two different reasons, right? Like, you like yours because they're just they're just such a better team, and I'm kind of trying to find a spot here where I'm poking a hole in a team that's been really good so far, but I do like both the spots here. All right, you ready for round number 3?
I'm ready. I'm excited to see where this next round goes.
How do you feel about the board through 2 rounds so far that you have?
I love my player prop, my first one. I love it. The Murray interception pick, I love. The Chargers one, I'm a little nervous, obviously. And then you kind of confirming my worst fears of, like, this could be a trap line.
Thinking it was a trap too, yeah.
Yeah, that's the one area I'm a little worried about. But overall, I'm happy with what I got so far.
All right, let's spin this and see if we can make you feel better or me feel better, because we'll see what we got here.
See what we got.
Oh, are we gonna land? Is it gonna
Underdog
stop
money
on
line?
All right, yeah, underdog money line.
Close.
Shout out to Ariel Torres.
I almost called my shot wrong again. It's almost 0-3.
You got it this time, though. But shout out to Ariel. You get the shout out here because you added this one in the comments, and we liked it, so we ended up rolling with it. So underdog money line. I'm starting us off here, correct? Yes, I just gave the Rams. Okay, I was right about that one. This is a difficult one, Tasos. I do think this is a tough one.
There's only a few spots I feel like are really good, so I'm
let's see. Is this plus money right now? If this is it is plus 101. Wow, I am wimping out of this, but it's still plus money. Chicago Bears against the Raiders. Plus 101. Boy, oh boy, is that a wuss move. I mean, when Ariel commented plus money line, I don't think that
that's even. That's basically even. But
it ain't. But it ain't. Plus 101 on Novig right now. Bears money line. I just think that this honestly, I just kind of like the direction the Bears are going in. I don't necessarily think that they're going to be good. I don't I even told you, I think it was last week or the week before, I'm not a big Caleb Williams guy, but I don't think this do you remember when people are overreacting to the Raiders after they beat the Patriots? And now we kind of see everybody. It's like this Raiders team is not all that great. And now you have I want to say they're going to sit back in zone. Let me check the dashboard here. Yeah, the Raiders sit back in zone and they don't really pressure the quarterback. Could you think of any better situation for someone like Caleb Williams who struggles mightily when he gets pressured? He's going to have time. Hopefully with a guru behind him and Ben Johnson, they can try and scheme up some things to get him involved. So, yeah, I think that the secondary is kind of a perfect spot for Caleb. I will admit to everyone out there, but it's also kind of strategy. Strike where the iron is hot. Plus 101, it's technically plus money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be hand up. Had I gone first,
you were going
I also would have went Bears plus 101. Yeah, I listen. It's so funny, and I have one of my best friends is a Raiders fan, so I love to mess around. I love to mess around with them and tease them a little bit. But it was so funny last week. I actually watched the games with him on Sunday, and he was like so shocked. He goes, "How could this happen to us? Like we looked so good week one." It's like, hey Johnny, maybe just maybe the Pats were that bad in week one, and the Raiders just benefited because. And it's not just him. All Raiders fans are like, "How did this happen? How did Marcus Mariota?"
It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy that it happened.
It's like
if you're a Raiders fan out there,
I can't name more than one start. And I watched the game. I can't name more than one starting defensive player on that defense besides Max Crosby. I don't know anyone else. I know a bunch of former Raiders players that like Robert Spillane on the Patriots, but like now I don't know anyone on that defense. And offensively, like their line is not good. They drafted Ashton Genty, but forgot that you need someone to block in front of them. And then, their wide receivers, like Trey Tucker last week had a really big game. Great. But, Geno Smith is not the most reliable quarterback, although he did play better last week. So, yeah, I don't trust this Raiders team at all. And I don't know if you watched any of the Bears-Cowboys game, but Caleb Williams, in the first half especially, was balling out. Early on, I mean, he was hitting guys. Luther Burden, the rookie wide receiver out of Missouri, was looking great. I mean, they looked really good. And I'm not like the biggest Caleb guy. I didn't love him at USC. I thought like that last year at USC, there were some red flags that I wasn't sure about. But the one thing that is for sure, he has potential. And I just think that people after week 1 and 2 were so quick to crap on him. And it's like, guys, he's in his third game with a entirely new offensive system in year 2 in the NFL. CJ Stroud, talking about the Texans again, what happened to him? You know what I mean? Sometimes it's tough. Like, if you don't have the right system around you, it can really backfire. And I think with Caleb Williams, you need time. I think he had a rough rookie year. That offensive line was terrible. Yes, they had some big-name receivers. That was honestly the worst thing that could have happened to them is they went out and got Keenan Allen and they got DJ Moore, and it was like, oh, look at the weapons. And it's like, yeah, but, they had a couple big-name receivers, but they had no line. The running game wasn't consistent. So I think it's going to get better, and I just think this is, again, a spot where I think you and I are kind of on the same page. We're more so fading the Raiders than it is loving the Bears. I think this Raiders team is a mess.
Yeah, and also looking at sort of on the dashboard there, which, guys, again, GuyBostonSports.com/members, you can pick it up yourself. Dallas does the exact, very similar to what we're going to see in terms of pressure and blitz as well as zone man, as to the Raiders do. So it's like, this is another good spot in which Caleb Williams should be pretty good. And realistically, this Bears team we saw them kind of fire on all cylinders last week. I don't think, and kind of to all the points that we're talking about, I don't think we need 300 yards and 4 touchdowns from Caleb Williams again. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That would be for me to cash this money line play, that would be a nice little icing on the cake. But if the Bears just play like decent, I think that gives them enough chance to beat this Raiders team too. So yeah, that's for mine. I'm curious to see where you go, because I guess I would say I have a bank of like 2 or 3 others.
I only had 2 or 3 on this, and you took one of those 3. But this is the other one that I'm very, let's say, hopeful for.
Okay.
And it's not like I'm not going big time underdog. I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars on the money line against the 49ers. Now, look, I'll say it right off the bat. The Niners obviously have the coaching advantage with Kyle Shanahan. I think that even despite all the injuries, they've been able to stay afloat very impressively. But there just comes a point where the injuries become too much to overcome. And I don't know what's going on in San Francisco. I don't know if there is a curse on them. I don't know if they screwed around with some black magic and now it's come back to haunt them. I mean, every year now it seems that it's not just they lose a couple of guys. They lose their best players for a long time. Nick Bosa now obviously out for the season. I mean, if you go through their injury report, it's pretty – I mean, Brandon Ayuk out. Nick Bosa out. You keep going down the list. Jawan Jennings questionable. George Kittle obviously still out. Brock Purdy listed as questionable. I'm assuming I don't know. They're saying that he's resuming to practice, but even if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. I honestly would not be surprised if Mac Jones is still out there. But even if Purdy's out there, I mean, they have some stuff on the offensive line they got to figure out. I mean, this is a Niners team where everything that could go wrong has gone wrong, and give them credit. They're still 3-0 despite that. But like I said, there just comes a point where it's like you can only overcome so much before it just kind of bites you in the ass. And I think it's with the Niners. I think the injuries are going to be way too much to overcome. And on the Jaguars side, look, I don't really know what to make of Jacksonville, for being honest. Again, this is another one of those teams where you look at their wins. They beat the Texans, who are now 0-3, and they beat the Panthers, who are 1-2.
Yeah.
You got the Bengals lost there, which obviously was pretty bad considering that Joe Burrow got out and it was Jake Browning who led that charge. And then you see what they did the next week versus Minnesota. So I don't really know what to make of Jacksonville. They got some, like Brian Thomas Jr. went from like one of those dynamic wide receivers to he's kind of fallen off the face of the earth. So they have a lot of question marks. But the one thing I will say is I just think this is more of I'm fading the Niners spot more so than it is I'm loving the Jaguars. But I do think Jacksonville, look, they're 2-1. I think their defense, honestly, has been better than I thought. I mean, they gave 10 points to Houston, 10 points to Carolina. There's some stuff to like there. But, yeah, I think in terms of moneyline plays, this is one where it's like I think this is a coin flip game. And, you're getting it for, what did I say it was? Plus
150?
150, yeah. I mean, it's not a bad spot. Like I said, I prefer your spot for sure. But I think this is a coin flip game. And if that's the case, the value is worth it to take Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think that's – I'm not ragging on all the points you made prior to, but I think that might be the best point. Like, I do think that this is one of those games out there that is a 50-50 type spot. If Brock Purdy plays, I do think that changes things because McCaffrey gets better with him and like that type of thing. Sure. But even still, I do look at this as somewhat of a 50-50 spot. And for plus 150, like, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Like, this San Fran team, as good as they have appeared to be, I think that's a good word to use. Like, realistically, they have not played a game that hasn't been close yet, and they've played a variety of opponents, right? One possession game against Seattle, and it came down to just I don't even know the guy's name. I forget it. The guy that caught the ball in the end zone. It was like his first NFL catch to win it, right? Then against New Orleans, it was a 5-point win, right? They almost blew that. Now, obviously, injuries and whatnot, sure. But then against Arizona last week, 16-15. You picked like one of the most 50-50 teams in general to go up against. So I think it's a decent strategy to get plus 150 on.
Yeah, and then I mean, looking again, going back to the dashboard, if you go ahead and look at the DVOA, like Jacksonville's defense, they're 4th right now in DVOA, 4th best pass defense. One key point that's very interesting here is the pressure blitz rate numbers, which obviously are a really cool feature over on the dashboard. Their pressure percentage for Jacksonville so far this year is 35.88%. That is 8th right now, so top 10. Brock Purdy, assuming that he's going to play, and again, that's what the dashboard kind of takes into consideration. He struggles versus pressure. He goes from a 74.3% completion percentage to 53.8. His yards per attempt dropped from 7.9 to 3.8. I mean, a lot of those numbers drop in massive ways. And then his interception numbers jumps up to 15.4. So you have a Jaguars defense that's bringing pressure against a Niners offense that, and he's also going to be hobbled because he's still recovering from injury. So I think, honestly, and if you had asked me this in the preseason, I probably would have never expected this, but this is a spot where I think the Jaguars defense is the way to look at this. I mean, their offense, they got a lot of some question marks, but I think Jacksonville's defense, honestly, might have a pretty good matchup on their hands.
Yeah, I don't hate it. Again, you're flipping a coin. You're getting plus 150 on one side of it. That seems like a good spot. All right, are we ready to jump into the Fade Me round?
I'm ready. I'm very interested to see how this goes.
I got some heat in the comments last week for going with the Chiefs with the was it like minus 255, and it did work. It is a strategy, but I think what people don't realize that even if that Chiefs one hit and Tasos had hit like a couple of his other plays, or say Mike Evans didn't score a touchdown, I'm not making much coin from that play if it wins. So there is a lot of strategy of like, I have to have a good week outside of that as well, because that won't just win it for you alone. So yeah, it's a strategy. It's allowed. Tasos, if we ever feel like it gets too OP, we can always make adjustments. But you know what? I don't think it's there yet.
I like it. I like having that. It's all strategy. I think it's a fun strategy to have on your side.
Yeah, 100%. And the wheel is dictating who gets it, so it's not like someone has an advantage innately going in. And it's definitely worked out opposite multiple times. Like I gave you one earlier in the year, I believe, and then you gave me that big one last year. But anyways, you ready to spin it? I know you want it.
I'm ready. I want it. I want it bad. I need it. I don't want it. I need it.
Let's see. Is Tasos? Is it going to sit?
Oh, it's mine.
Hey, you turn things around. You turn things around with the wheel call.
Finally. All right.
This could be big, huh?
This is a spot that I think I'm going to get some flack for, and I'll talk about it on the Oracle later this week. But I love this spot, and I'm very interested to see how you feel. This is one of those few times where I feel like on Fade Me, I'm not like, you're not getting stuck with the Panthers. You're not getting stuck with the Saints. I'm giving you a pretty fair team
which is not like you normally. You usually
no. Normally, I'm trying to find the worst possible. You're going to actually have fun rooting for this team.
Okay.
I'm looking at Eagles Bucks. I am taking the Eagles alternate spread minus 5.5. I'm taking your strategy of going I'm going the opposite way. I'm going to Eagles minus 5.5 here, which is plus 122 on FanDuel. You're getting the Bucks at plus 5.5, which obviously I think you're going to have that for minus. It's probably going to be a pretty
minus 145 on DK right now.
Yeah. I get it, and everyone probably right now is going to jump to the comments and say, well, the Buccaneers own the Eagles. And to be fair, they have won 4 of the last 5, including playoffs against the Eagles. Mm-hmm. I get that. This Bucks team, and I am a Bucks guy. I like Baker Mayfield. I like the run they're on. I'm rooting for them. I really am. This team is 3-0. They could just, if you change 1 or 2 plays per game, this team's 0-3. The Bucks have been flirting with fire. This team reminds me a lot of last year's Chiefs, where they should have lost all these games, but somehow, some way, the football god said not today, and they go ahead and give them a win. The problem is that if you look at who Tampa Bay has played so far, and this I think is the key to this spot, they're 3-0, but it's because they've narrowly hung on in a couple of interesting spots. So the first game, obviously, they beat Dallas. Dallas, I think you've seen a couple games now, not a great team. They've beaten the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the Eagles. I'm so sorry. I don't know where. Yeah, sorry. I went to Tampa Bay. They barely hang on versus Atlanta. Okay, Younghoe Koo makes that kick. We go to overtime. Who knows what happens? They barely hang on. Atlanta's now 1-2. They barely hang on and win by 1 point against the Texans, who are now 0-3. And then they barely hang on in a game that looked dead. They blew the lead. They were killing the Jets. Jets come back. Aaron Glenn is dancing on the sidelines, and then Baker Mayfield magic to come back and win that game.
Yep.
The moral of the story, though, is that 0-3, 0-3, 1-2. They're playing 3 not-so-good teams, and they've won by 3 points or less in all 3 spots. That's not going to cut it against the Eagles. The Eagles are far and away better than all 3 of those teams. The Eagles are 3-0. They've beaten the Chiefs, they've beaten the Rams, and they've beaten the Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys, like I was trying to say before I got mixed up, that win's obviously a little bit less impressive
Yeah.
now, but the Chiefs win and the Rams wins. Those are two pretty good teams, and Kansas City has their issues too. But this is gonna be tough. This is a tough spot for the Bucks. They got really lucky, and then the only other thing to add to this before I kind of let you kind of share your thoughts on this is the injury stuff for Tampa Bay is not looking good. Mike Evans obviously doubtful right now with a hamstring injury. Chris Godwin, who hasn't played yet, he's questionable with that ankle injury, but I would assume as of now, probably not going to play. They got a lot of injuries. Tristan Wirfs, questionable still. Jalen McMillan at wide receiver, still out. I mean, they're basically going to have a Mecca Buka, and that's about it at wide receiver.
Yeah.
You know, the offensive line stuff has been a bit of an issue for them. And their defense, which it's been a little bit better, still not a very good defense. So I don't know. I think the Eagles are going to take this. I think alternate line, I think they're going to win this game by a decent amount. The Eagles, by the way, are 7-2 against the spread in their last 9 games versus bottom 10 scoring defenses. So take that with you will. Although I'm not the Bucks scoring defense is not bottom 10, which is where I'm a little confused with that number because they're 17th in points per game. So that's the one area where I'd be a little confused. But
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? So first and foremost, I do agree with the side you took. So I think that it was a good fade me. I would rather be rooting for the Eagles in this game than the Bucks. But you're right. It is going to be fun to root for the Bucks, right? The only issue I have with what you said, and you kind of started to touch on it, but then you got mixed up, is you said like how the Bucks, obviously barely have won, and that is true. I recorded the weekend video today, and I said it in my video. I said this Bucks team, yeah, you can say that they've barely hung on to these games and won and all that. You do flip it over to Philadelphia, and they're in the exact same boat. A couple drops from CeeDee Lamb, they lose that game against Dallas. The Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce fumbles on the goal line, or that interception that bounces off him, and then the Rams with the 2 field goals blocked.
Yeah.
Like that's the only thing. It's like I don't know how much of an argument that is to the Bucks, dismay in a sense, because it's the same exact thing for Philadelphia. Where you have me sold and where I am all in is that we have not seen the Eagles play their best football yet, and they've played pretty good football, especially offensively and honestly defensively fine too. The fact that they were able to come out of the weather delay week 1 and kind of slow down a Dallas team that was kind of picking them apart. Most people chalk it up to the weather. I get it. I'm a little pissed. I had the over 44.5 in that game and it ended there. So yeah, I get it, but I do think this team is yet to play their best football. Whereas the Bucks, like I talked about Danny Dimes, Indiana Jones. Like at some point, Magic runs out, and both of us are big Baker guys, but Magic doesn't usually seem to like keep working against the defending Super Bowl champs when they have Jalen Hurts, who hasn't even really been a good passer so far this year. Saquon Barkley is one of the best players in the entire league. You have a dynamic receiving core. Like I'm with you, and I do like the idea of alting that because you are taking some strategy there. Even if I cash this, yeah, you lose that, but I have a pretty heavily juiced minus 145 winner. Like that's the most juiced thing on my board here. So I kind of like the move by you. I do admit that, yeah, I think it's going to be fun to root for the Bucks in the sense you gave me a team that like I can get behind because they are fun. But if I was coming into this independently, I wouldn't be on the Bucks. I'd be on the Eagles.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I said, the Eagles, I'm not saying they've had a perfect season, but I think the difference here and where I think I credit the Eagles a little bit more is that, yes, they've been on these one-score games. It's kind of the same thing. Like, the Travis Kelce interception in that Chiefs game where he kind of basically causes single-handedly an interception in that game. That changes the whole game. The difference is that these games are happening for the Eagles against the Rams, the Chiefs, Cowboys. The Bucks are getting away with miracle wins against the Jets, the Texans, and the Falcons. The Falcons who just scored 0 points against the Panthers defense that we, I think, agree on is not very good. It's less impressive when you look at who the Bucks are doing it against. And I think the key thing also is I think the Mike Evans injury is literally like you can't have that right now. With all the other injuries they have, the last thing they could have is Mike Evans getting hurt. And I think there's another element. I didn't talk about this yet, and I should have. That's my fault. I do think there's a little bit of a rivalry here, and I do think the Eagles – this is a Bucks team that has gotten the best of them in recent matchups. Again, this is a team that knocked them out of the playoffs a couple of years ago. This is a team that has won 4 of the last 5, including just last season. Remember last year, very early in the year, it was September 29th of last season. The Bucks killed this Eagles team. I think the Eagles had a bye week not long afterwards. And I remember that this was when they were calling for Sirianni's head. Everyone was like, oh, get rid of Sirianni, fire the guy. The Eagles are done. They got issues, all these different things, and obviously they go on their run and they win the Super Bowl. But Tampa Bay was the one that kind of started all this up, and it was the loss to Tampa Bay that kind of fueled their season. I think that there is a legit rivalry here, and I do think there is an element of we want to prove something. I don't think these teams like each other all that much. I think the Eagles in particular have something to be pissed off about here, considering that they have been owned. Again, this is a team that less than 2 years ago knocked them out of the playoffs. So I think this is an interesting rivalry, and I think one where the Eagles are motivated. I think this is a good football team coming off of a exhilarating last-second win over the Rams. I think they build on it. I really think they do. And like I said, I have a lot of question marks with Tampa Bay right now due to the injuries. Now, Baker Mayfield has shown in the past, screw the injuries. I can still make plays. So that's the one element, I guess, if you're on the Bucs, that's where you can be positive, I guess. But I think the Eagles are a better team. I think they're going to win this game.
It's fair. Doing it against Michael Penix, Tyrod Taylor, CJ Stroud's a lot different than Matt Stafford, Patrick Mahomes, and Dak Prescott. Also, I was just looking at the schedule last year for the Eagles too, because once you said that, when the Bucs smashed them, I was like, wait, the Eagles won 10 straight games after that, and they finished off the season after that loss. They were 2-2 at that point, right? They had the bye week the next week, so you pretty much recounted this perfectly. They rattle off 10 straight. They lose to that game to Washington, which was kind of a fluke, and then win the next 2 games. So they went 12-1 after that game, so clearly they were a little fired up coming off of this. So yeah, and like I said, I think that my point to help your case is like this Eagles team has not played their best football yet. Like I don't know why we act like the team that wins the Super Bowl should be good instantly, but like, has anybody ever heard of the championship hangover? It takes a little while. Like like they were so used to being in those high pressure games. You come in and you kind of start a little slow, I guess. The Eagles have started slow and have still won 3 straight games. So yeah, you're right. I don't mind it, but like I said, at least you are giving me a little lifeline here, being like, hey, you're probably going to enjoy what you're rooting for, and that's true.
I said, I think that was the one nicest thing I could do for you is like, not the same thing. If I was in that spot, like, you know what, there are way worse positions to be in than rooting for Baker Mayfield in a game like this, where again, a rivalry where over the last 5 matchups, Tampa Bay has won outright the last 4 of the last 5. So.
Speaking of rivalry, I'll tell you where I was going to go, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a rivalry that you might have with this team now because they've probably taken so much of your money so far this year. I was actually going to go Texans money line, and you'd get the Titans money line.
I'd be fine with that.
Right. Because I would say the same thing. No way they lose it. They go 0-4 and all this, right? I still think that. I do believe that. And I don't think the Titans are very good, but I could see you also being like, wow, that's a decent shot because the Texans team does stink. So that's where I was going to go because it is kind of that pigeonhole spot, I guess, for me that I think you get a 1-unit loss, but I'm also like getting the better team. But I'm almost glad you had it because I like the entertainment factor of yours a little bit more.
Yeah. I would have enjoyed this for to be like a hater and be like, you know what? Yeah, screw the Texans.
You are the rivalry now. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that is that's going to conclude our picks here. Tasos, big week for you here.
Yeah. This is
3-1. I mean, 3-1.
Listen, if I still lose, it's still fine. We're still early in the year, but
okay, CJ Stroud, the sun's gonna rise tomorrow.
No, listen, but here's the thing: like, I'm not gonna if things do, and again, I guess that's not. I should have said it a little bit different. That sounds bad.
Yeah, it's fine if I lose. That's all I heard.
It's not fine if I lose, but it's like I'm not. This is not a must-win game. It's every game. I should just stop talking. This is not going well.
Every week for me is must win. I mean, I might just be taking it more seriously than you.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna let's wrap up the show because I feel like I'm just digging myself in a deeper hole here. I'm gonna let my picks do the talking.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one to end on. All right, guys, really do appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.